Hi, buddy. Hi, I'm Harriet Schwartz, and this is Connected Teaching, the 5-Minute Boost. I'm here with Toby, the TA, who has some fans out there who wanted to make sure he got into one of these videos. So when I think about authenticity in teaching and self-disclosure with students, let me start by saying that when I first started teaching, I disclosed very little. I really felt like the time in class was the students' airtime, and that it wasn't my time to share my stuff, but it was really about them. And then when I was working on my dissertation, several students, and these were not my students, of course, but students from other institutions talked about how when faculty shared some of their own challenges and experiences of overcoming obstacles and so on, that it made faculty more approachable and also helped the students see that some of their ups and downs and challenges were really very standard parts or very typical parts of an academic journey. So I made a bit of a shift, and I sort of grew more comfortable with sharing a little bit of my own experience. I sometimes will tell students about when I have articles rejected or revise and resubmits or something like that. Again, to show them that even tenured faculty members still are going through those processes of having their work reviewed and sometimes rejected and so on. But today I'm thinking about self-disclosure during this time of crisis. And so I think the balance that I try to strike is that I want to share enough of my own story and what's going on for me with students so that they're meeting with a real person in their learning space, right? If I acted as if nothing else was going on in the world and it was business as usual, it seems to me that would be artificial and make it hard to connect and maybe even a little hard to trust. I'm also aware that I don't think it's appropriate to lean on my students emotionally. So if I were in a space where I were feeling particularly distraught about the state of the world, I wouldn't share that in that moment with students because I wouldn't want them to feel like they need to take care of me. But, and to the degree that I'm aware of challenges that I faced during this pandemic and sort of basic concerns that I have, I do share some of that with students, particularly when they ask how I'm doing in the middle of everything. Because again, I think that makes it all more real. It lets them see someone else who is trying to continue their own learning and work in the midst of this. I share some of my strategies for how I cope with the stress and with the sort of chaos and uncertainty. And again, I hope that role models strategies and shares strategies with them. So again, I think for me, self-disclosure with students and authenticity is really very much about that balance of sharing enough to be real and sharing it in a truthful way, but also being mindful that it's not that I don't want students to start to feel like I'm in need, that they need to somehow step up and take care of me. That, from my perspective, would not be sort of appropriate in my role as a teacher. So some of my earliest thinking on this was shaped by Allison Tom, who wrote this fantastic article that I've gone back to many, many times. So I will post that in the notes below. And I'll probably put links to a few other resources. I've done some other writing about boundaries and so on, so I'll share some of that as well. So my tip for today is to honor that part of yourself that is trying to figure this out. I think the ways in which we try to sort of work through the complexity of teaching, it's a journey and it's an intense journey, and it would probably be easier to just sort of pull back. But I think the ways in which we try to work through what does it mean to be authentic with students, what's appropriate to share with them, what will help us connect, what will facilitate their learning, these are big, important questions. And so honor that part of yourself that seeks to do this work. So thanks for checking out this video. I'd appreciate it if you'd hit like below, if you'd hit subscribe, tell your friends and colleagues about the series. I'll post some resources in the notes below, and I'll see you next week. Take care.